Well, the headlines just continue to bring charges against famous people for improper conduct, some very serious, some not quite so serious, but nevertheless all sin and all unrighteousness. And whether they're true or not is certainly in question. Most cases, these are not proven charges and accusations, even though now the world is acting as if every charge that comes against anyone by anyone is to be true. And yet there's never been evidence or court cases to prove that that is true. Nevertheless, what am I saying? We are wicked and sinful, whether we're making false charges and false accusations or exaggerated charges and exaggerated situations, or whether we're guilty of those charges. The fact of the matter is we're all sinners and fall short of the glory of God. Now, it's really interesting because today in a Polk associational meeting, the pastor that brought the devotion today took Romans chapters 1 through 3 and said it's very clear that we're all sinners, both Jew and Gentile, the good news and the bad news. And that is God hates sin. And we find that man can't possibly follow God's rules and regulations, and that makes us sinners. But the interesting thing that he brought out as he went into chapter 2 was he said, we as men set rules for ourselves, such as speed limits, stopping at a stop sign, and various other laws, which we don't keep perfectly, even our own laws. Now that's quite interesting when you think about it that way. We can't keep God's laws perfectly. We're all sinners and fall short of the glory of God, but we can't even keep the laws that we make for ourselves perfectly and correctly. I mean, I'm sure on the way to that associational meeting, I exceeded the speed limit. Maybe not by 20 or 30 miles an hour, but maybe by what we all think is an acceptable amount, which is 5 miles per hour. So we can't even follow our own rules and regulations without violating them, which makes us not only sinners against God's laws, but makes us sinners against man's laws. And that brought me back to a sermon that I heard probably 40 or 50 years ago by Dr. Whitty of Luther Rice Seminary. And he preached a whole hour and a half on Romans 5:6, which says, while we were still helpless, at the right time, Christ died for the ungodly or for sinners. Now let's just put that in perspective. As Dr. Whitty did, I won't take an hour and a half, I promise. Dr. Whitty said, it doesn't say while we were weak. It doesn't say while we were just tempted. It says when we were helpless. That is, there's nothing we could do for ourselves. Christ died for us. So if we're willing to accept the fact that we're sinners, not only of God's laws, but man's laws, and we recognize that we're helpless because the wages of sin are death, in this month of thankfulness, we ought to be thankful that God's grace and his mercy and loving us enough to send his son to die for us is something that we ought to be eternally grateful for. For we are all sinners, and God hates sin. And the only way we're acceptable then in God's eyes is to have Christ dwelling in us through the power of the Holy Spirit. It's something for us to think about today, something for us to truly understand. Religion can't fulfill God's promises, and religion can't fulfill righteousness. So we can't follow God's laws perfectly. We can't follow man's laws perfectly, and we can't even follow religious rules and regulations perfectly, which puts us all in the same boat. We're sinners. God hates sin, and he loves us so much that he sent his son Jesus to die for us. If you're not thankful for that, then you really are not thankful, because you see, we've earned our wages, and we were helpless. We were without any strength to save ourselves, but Christ died for us at just the right time. That's your thought for the day. God bless you and have a great day.